24, 48 hours, destroy how many substations like that?
Well, I
Think
imagine
about it.
quite a few, I imagine. Well,
You
good
know,
morning.
China could have agents pouring through southern border, and they would come in and nobody checks on them.
Because of the substations getting blown up?
No, no. I mean, let's say you wanted to attack infrastructure in the U.S. and
Yeah.
create and disrupt the infrastructure. You could send in a lot of people just pouring through the border. Nobody would filter them. They just come in and then they can do whatever they want. And you have Latin foreign agents in your country, and then as soon as they're triggered or activated, it can create a lot of trouble. And who's gonna stop them, right? If you have a couple dozen of Chinese spies that decide to attack different substation or distribution towers or whatever, you can quickly cripple your the nation.
That is a possibility. That is certainly a possibility. All right. We are now live and recording, so I will start by saying happy Monday, savages. How y'all doing? All right, going on through the list. Good morning, Lady Ninja and Sagacious Owl, King of Casual. Let's see. Super Trucker, you are here. Good morning. All right, let's go on through. Da da da. Pitbull Doorbell, good morning. And Rougarou, good morning. Let's see. American Dreams, you're here. Good. All right. Let's see. I am already losing my short term memory. Menopause, still continuing. Testosterone is on the way, I'm told. So there's going to be this new resistance workout I'm going to be doing to bulk back up, get my strength back. Lady Zero, good morning. Feisty, hey. All right, let's see. Da, 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 da. And I think that is the end. All right, let's go on over to the Jitsi. See who we have in the Jitsi right now. We have Matt, we have Pitbull Doorbell, and Maine. 45 might be stopping by in a bit. Now, let's see. What is going on today is we have a new game server. Are you guys familiar with Space Engineers? Let me go on over to Space Engineers. Now, we set up this server for Xbox and PC users. All right? If you want to join us, we are using the non DLC form. So if you decide to go and get this game, Space Engineers, from Steam, you want the $19 to $20 version, nothing higher than that. For those of you who already have the game, what you'll do is you go over to the EOS area, type in code word, or not code word, but just start by typing in chaos, and you'll see Chaos World with the BDE Brigade as the server. We currently have room for 10 players. You click it, or whatever you do on an Xbox, I'm on a PC, and you will come to a screen which asks you which faction you want to be in. We are in the, let's see, I'll tell you. First Colonist, we're in the First Colonist faction, and what you'll want to do is drop into the medical room and respawn into the medical room, and you'll be at our base. So I hope that explains how to get into this game. And what we'll be doing is exploring space and dying a lot, I imagine. Possibly. So, anyway, if you're into space games and you want to join us, check out Space Engineers and follow the instructions I just gave you. If you have any difficulties, you can find me in the Friendly Froggers Jitsi, and we'll explain how to get through that. Now, back on over to what's going on in the news. North Carolina. One moment, please. The game is crazy, Feisty. The game is crazy. Lots of physics, which you build an automobile or like whatever, and you build that thing too wide, you don't have enough load on it, and you go running over the terrain and you hit a bump, you're going to flip your vehicle. I was on top of the cab last night while 45 was driving the vehicle. I was on top of the thing with my blowtorch, screaming with my hair flowing in the wind. Well, what hair I have left, flowing in the wind, holding up an acetylene torch, just. And then 45, I don't know, he hit like a bump or something like that. Next thing you know, I am ragdolling off the top of this vehicle, flying across the field. I look back and I see that 45 has flipped the vehicle and is spinning around somehow with his wheels in the air. It was crazy. So that's how the game is going. Yes! Yes. All right. We'll see you later, American Dreams. All right, so FBI is joining this probe into intentional attacks on a substation. Now, I don't know how they know that this is intentional, but apparently it knocked out power to about 20,000 users in North Carolina. What the hell's up with that? 40,000? It was 20,000 yesterday. Now it's 40,000 customers in the dark Saturday night, prompting a curfew. Prompting a curfew! An emergency declaration. Ooh. Is that.
The curfew thing's interesting.
Yeah. I could see the emergency aspect of it, to restore power to people. I imagine in North Carolina it might be a little chilly, but it's not like Minnesota where it's like, below zero and stuff. Huh. I wonder what it affected. Let's
Well,
see.
if you get into certain parts of North Carolina, like Boone is notorious for being like really cold.
Well, I wonder what the hell they shot. I mean, okay, maybe we shouldn't even go into that conversation on this stream, but, what in the world do you have to. You would think that there would be a lot of surveillance around substations and power plants and such. It's like, do they not know who did it?
No.
No group has stepped up to acknowledge or accept they're the ones who did it. Well, what is it? Are we in the Middle East now, where it's like Al Qaeda or Hezbollah? Like, are we? What? Who are we expecting? Which group are we expecting to step up and take the rap for this? And why would a person be shooting at a substation, unless they're up to no good? I wonder. And what kind of weapon would you have to use? I mean, I've
Well,
shot.
apparently they found a ton of shell casings, and they were all wiped clean of any prints.
Really?
And the people shooting were just out of vision of the security camera that was there, but you could see the muzzle flash from the weapon that they were using, or the weapons.
So it's quite possible these people knew the layout and where to sit.
Yes.
Yeah, that
and,
doesn't sound like just some drunk shenanigans.
Oh,
and
okay.
apparently, like a minute before the cops arrived, they were aware of the phone call or whatever going in to have the cops show up, and they all took off and were gone. And the cops showed up and said that there was nothing there, they couldn't see anything. And then like an hour later or whatever, somebody actually showed up that works for the company, and that's when they discovered all the ammunition on the ground, all the casings, and the damage.
Man,
Well,
well,
I've seen in the past a while ago, it was videos on YouTube about some company that's offering security testing, penetration testing. So you have like the CEO of a company or CTO hires a group of people to try to test the security of their company. And one of the company being tested was actually an electric company, and that group of people was trying to enter premises where they have access to all the servers that control the whole stations, and also to I got my daughter just walking, and
oh,
also have trying to penetrate one of those stations exactly like that one, and they were able to figure out the angles of the camera and just walked in after some efforts, but they were just showing that the security was not that good.
that's definitely not good. All right, so we know that happened now. I guess we'll hear more about that later. I wonder if this is going to
Well,
lead to like more
at
in
one point, somebody was trying to connect it to a possible trying to shut down some. Was it some kind of drag show or one of those like family friendly drag events or something they were trying to connect it to?
so they
That
so they're trying to connect
possibly they were doing it to try to get that shut down. You know,
so they're
put
trying to
40,000 people out of power to shut power to one building. That doesn't seem to make much sense. But I remember seeing some kind of story about that at
I,
one point.
well, I imagine they're going to be like taking this story and like melding it into why they need to take people's weapons from them. I imagine. You know, about what 5 months ago, but then it's also been a story which has been circulating for a couple of years now. They were talking about cybersecurity and bringing down infrastructure related to energy. And I'm curious. I'm really curious what this is going to turn into. So we'll keep an eye on it. All right, I don't even want to talk about this story right here. This whole same-sex marriage fight continues today at the Supreme Court. They're trying to tie some sort of thing and like same-sex marriage is being conflated with interracial marriage. And I've been getting emails from these I guess you call them queer groups where they are all up in arms about having their marriage what do you call it, acknowledgments taken away from them. I don't get it. It's it just seems like a big ass distraction to get people all upset and such. It's like marriage is marriage is marriage. I don't understand why they're bringing this stuff up. It's like yes, at one time, it's like how do you, how does one even like wrap their mind around this? I don't even know what the hell happened with the whole drama about, well, marriage is between a man and a woman, and I accept that as a traditionally valued individual. I accept that. Am I married to my husband? Yes. And am I concerned about this? I'm not concerned about this. If they said that my husband and my marriage was no longer valid, I'd still stay with him. As far as I'm concerned, we're still married. And I think the original I think the original argument was about property rights and stuff. Well, it turns out you don't need to be married to someone to ensure that they inherit your property. That's what wills are for. So, I don't understand exactly what's going on with this whole drama, but apparently to a certain group of people, this is very high on their list. So, whatever for that. Let's see. Paul Pelosi, now, he just got smacked up, as we know.
Well, if I could, what's
Yes.
the what about like marital health benefits for spouses?
I
Like
mean,
if you work somewhere, you can cover your spouse. So I know some extend to, you know, same-sex marriage or whatever,
I'd have to
domestic
look into that.
partnerships and whatnot. But maybe that's got something to do with it, possibly.
One moment. Bruce, would you come down here but not be on camera? Darling, would you please come down here but not be on camera? You can like stand right over here. Um, what would happen if our marriage here, like this whole thing, do you know anything about the same-sex marriage fight continues in the Supreme Court? Do you know what that's about?
No.
Okay, okay, so you don't know what that's about. I don't either. Um, what would happen if our marriage was dissolved? What Pitbull, that was you, correct? Asking the question?
Yeah,
Could you ask that question again while my husband is in earshot?
I was just wondering if that what effect that would have on like insurance purposes, where a company provides a spouse benefits to health coverage and whatnot.
Well, I don't think anything would change in Minnesota because they had Minnesota had its own marriage equality law, and they also before that they also provided insurance benefits to domestic partners.
All right. So in Minnesota, it doesn't make a difference. I guess it's a state by state issue. I think that what they're trying to do is they're trying to take state aspected laws and regulations. Thank you, honey. I think they're trying to take state aspected laws and regulation, and they're just trying to make sure that every state follows suit. I don't like that kind of top heavy legislation. I like states having their own boundaries and laws and regulations. I don't like this. I don't like everything being painted with the same brush because I like diversity. I mean, that's real diversity. When each state has its own characteristics, I prefer that because it makes life more interesting. It's not so, ugh. And it removes the drama. It's like, if they would just put so much of this power back into the hands of the state and get it out of the federal branch of the government, I think that life would be so less stressful because then you could just move to the place you want and like whatever you get like more flavors that way instead of everything tasting the same. You get 50 different flavors instead of one. I mean, does my logic track? All right. So, Pitbull, I hope that answered your question. I don't know if it fully answered your question, but I hope it did. What are the video card requirements for space engineers? Let me go check.
Yeah, the healthcare industry has such a heavy thumb on the scales when it comes to legislation these days that anytime something comes up legislatively, it's like I'm looking to see what money group is benefiting from it.
Yeah, I can understand that. All right, so recommended is a what? A GeForce 1070 or a Radeon RX Vega 56 or higher, but the minimum is a GeForce 750 Ti or a Radeon R9 270 or higher. All right, so those are the requirements, and then it runs on Windows 10. So yes, I hope that this answers your question as far as the requirements. But Paul Pelosi getting all beat up by that individual. What have we heard on that individual, by the way? Was it a grinder date gone wrong? Do we know for certain what exactly happened at the Pelosi house that evening?
I know you're gonna find this shocking.
What?
But everything's been hushed and sealed up, and I doubt we're ever gonna actually get the real information.
Well,
all the chest video cam, the cop cams and all that shit, surveillance, all that shit. We're never gonna see any of that.
well, was this guy ever charged? Was this guy ever was he ever imprisoned or anything like that? I mean, I heard he tried to plead out innocent. It's like whatever
Yeah,
it became.
he got charged with like fucking 10 different things, and yeah, he pleaded not guilty.
And that's all we know about it so far.
Yep.
Well, here's Paul Pelosi, apparently. At least we think that that's Paul Pelosi in a dapper hat. Now, why would you do that? I mean, my gosh. I mean, was he not struck in the head with hammer? Like several times, apparently?
Yeah, he had skull fracture and brain bleed or whatever the fuck, and all yeah.
Okay, but now
Broken
he's
arm.
out. He's out making an appearance on Sunday at the Kennedy Center. And what's up with all this red? What is up? Has anyone else noticed that the Biden regime has really adopted this red motif? Like it's always dark and red and all that. It's like, what are they trying to tell us here?
It's almost like they've got a bunch of Satanists in the cabinet or something. I mean, it's weird.
Almost.
And what the fuck is up with this? What does this mean? What are these collar things that they're wearing? Okay, the 2022 Kennedy Center honorees. Okay, George Clooney. Oh, good lord, George Clooney. Amy Grant, Gladys Knight, and these are performers.
Oh, look, it's Edge. No, it's Bono and Edge.
Bono is Bono.
22.
Yes, Bono, The Edge, Adam Clayton, and why?
Vexen was decorated.
What's up?
Vexen was decorated at the White.
I don't understand. What did you
It's
say?
not. It's a new thing. Vexen now looks like Bono.
Vexen now looks like Bono.
Yeah. You
Mm,
got the glasses, the haircut.
kind
I'm
of.
telling you, man, it's very close. Bono a couple years younger.
Oh, okay, we'll start calling Vexen Bono. Then every time he like steps into Jitsi, we'll be like, "Hey, Bono."
And Pitbull wanted me to chime in because of the question that you asked your husband earlier about the effects of not having gay marriage recognized anymore.
Yes.
And I just typed in GC chat because my daughter's home, sick, and being
Okay.
noisy. But
Okay, let me see.
there was end of life. If in the hospital when you are at end of life, it used to be family only allowed. So sometimes gay partners were not allowed to see their loved one passing away. Only the family, so they were excluded. That was one thing in the past. There's also joint tax filing, and there was pensions. So when a husband died, the wife gets the pension, for boomers, not for us, because pension don't exist anymore for us. But uh, gay couples, the partner would not get the pension, so it would just disappear. That's one of some of the few things I remember being told about.
Yeah, I recall that as well. And I guess from a I mean, maybe I'm being very myopic about this. I could have lived life with or without it. It's like I really don't depend on Bruce. I mean, I guess it's a case by case thing. It's we came into this as individuals and we'll leave as individuals. It's like we're just enjoying the ride together like right now. Maybe I have maybe I don't understand exactly what the importance of the the marital contract is. I hear what you're saying and such, and at the same time it's like those things weren't the reasons why I got married to him in the first place. So
No, it's more, well, because you're talking about there's your case and there's the macro of everybody else and all the possibilities.
yeah,
In
that's
your case, like Bruce was then dismissing the issue because saying Minnesota, I think, as its own laws. Was it Minnesota? I'm sorry, I'm French from Canada.
no, it's fine.
Um, so um, so wherever the state you guys are in, it wouldn't be an issue because the state has its own law. But the real question was if we make abstraction of that and go into theoretical that gay couples don't have their union recognized anymore, what would be the consequence at large for people in other states, or even if it was reversed in your states, what would be the consequences long term, not just for you guys but for other gay couples? And
Okay, well,
that's some
I
of the consequences that problems that used to be in the past that I was told about.
I can understand. Okay, I imagine the consequences would be well, one, we'd go back to the way things were, and that was fine. I mean, for me, that was fine. It may not be fine for other people. I'm just trying to figure out why it's even being brought up. What risk is actually being proposed, and why are they conflating it with interracial marriage? That's what I don't understand, because when I've been like reading through this, they're talking about interracial as well. So let me see if I can do a find here.
My guess would be that it's two different things, but the lefties are conflating them together, trying to attach some racism to it so
Yeah.
that it can dismiss the whole thing and say it's a far right, white supremacist stuff. When in fact it's two different cases. You have the how you call it, uh, nuclear family is one thing, and nuclear family, it doesn't matter what race the people are within that family. But when it comes to gay marriage versus nuclear family, there's more to it. There's also the adoption. You used to not be able to adopt if you weren't a couple. A single person could not adopt. So a gay couple could not adopt if their union was not recognized either. and even then, some places would not allow the couples to adopt.
You
So
know,
adoption
okay,
is another thing.
I do remember that now. I do know of a case of a acquaintance of mine before the Marriage Act was enacted. He is single. He is gay at the time, and he was able to adopt two youth. So at least in Minnesota, I think Minnesota is very. I mean, it's very liberal here. Um, I guess this is why I was saying about like the state by state thing. It's like I prefer that the laws just be state by state, and then you can move to where you want to match your desires in life. And as long as you're within that state, you can still travel, of course. However, knowing that your life and the choices you make in life may not be recognized by every state. But that's how I grew up, too. It's like in some states, you could drink at one age and you couldn't at another. And there were every state had its own laws. And I like that because it made the states so that their um, citizens and their communities had a very distinct flavor from one state to another. I don't. Maybe I'm just too old fashioned. Maybe I'm a little bigoted. I don't know, or maybe I'm just a bit ignorant. I don't want all the states being painted with the same brush, because let's say I didn't agree with this. I would want to be in a community with people who I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I've seen what it has done to communities. It has torn communities apart. And I remember at a time decades ago when communities were much stronger because they had solid foundations built on history. And what I've seen is these arguments have eroded the foundations of long standing civilizations. And that's the part that bothers me. I understand that people would have to give up certain freedoms in their minds, but we're talking about like marriage here. I'd be happy if it went back to a man and a woman. If that's what worked and caused the least amount of stress on society for the majority, I'd be okay with that. Because
Oh,
what's up?
so we used to be based on culture and tradition, and that all went out the window with Christianity. When the West started turning its back on Christianity, that's when everything went to shit.
When they
That's when
started
it started. Was the beginning of the end.
when they started turning off Christianity, is that what you said?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it was part of our tradition. If you remove our tradition, then other nations that have their strong tradition will just gonna trample on yours.
They should have just called it something else. They should have just called it something else. They should never have blended same sex with heterosex tradition, because it's tradition. It's like the same thing like with pride and stuff. It was tradition, like although it was a newer tradition over the past 50 years. It was celebrated on one day, and it was like it wasn't welcomed by all, but it wasn't pushed in people's faces. Now it's like every day it seems like it's always being pushed into people's faces, like accept this, accept that. And we've seen the slide. It's like now accept that kids go to drag shows, and now accept that, it's this whole like minor attracted person. You can't call them pedophiles anymore because that's a stigmatism. You have to call them like minor attracted persons. That doesn't make it any better. Not in my mind. It's like this changing of definitions and all this stuff. I don't agree with it. I'd prefer.
I don't know.
What's up?
I don't know if you. I recall that. I cannot tell you one person, but I recall that one of the arguments against gay marriage was that it is you're giving 1 inch, and it's just the beginning of something bigger. And they were telling exactly that. Then it's going to be normalization of pedophilia, but there was more and more to that. Like then it's gonna be like animal stuff and whatever now, and we have the furries now, and they were right. So in my opinion, I think we agree that marriage should have stick to a man and a woman, and and then what people do in their own house between consenting adult, who cares? It's their decision. They are both agreeing. Who cares what you do in your own house? But don't go in public and shove it in everybody's face. Exactly like you're saying. The gay pride is going way too far, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, that's gone way, way, way too far.
I think
The,
it's a swing of the pendulum. It went too far in one direction, then too far back to the left, and now to correct that, it's gonna go maybe eventually too far to the right. We just need the balance in the middle. Like tolerate the others, tolerate what people do in their home, their decision, how they want to live their life. Just tolerate it, as long as they don't, you know, um, destroy the culture by changing laws that were part of tradition.
you know,
Important stuff.
I remember when this discussion about is a slippery slope, and I didn't believe it at the time. I didn't believe it at the time, not until I realized that that Pride was getting too long, like it was extending beyond a day, then it was like a weekend. And it wasn't until I was out in the during a Pride event with Bruce, and I didn't notice this any time in my past because it never happened in Dallas Pride, never happened at Chicago Pride, never happened in Minnesota Pride, never saw kids out in the park. Okay, people didn't bring their kids to these events because people were typically becoming lewd. My wake up moment was when I noticed that there were children in the group with us with people who were having lewd conduct, and that was the moment I like looked at Bruce and I was like, I am done with Pride. It's like this is becoming sick. It's like something's not right. It's like I already had a problem with all the corporations coming and setting up booths and tents and stuff like that. Because with Will and Grace, when Will and Grace came on television, the first couple of episodes I was like, oh yeah, this is cute. And then I realized what they were doing in Will and Grace is that they were exploiting gay people, is what they were doing. And they're trying to make people comfortable with gay people. And it's like we were used as a marketing ploy. And that's where I was like, I am not a tool to be used to push an agenda. It's like that was never what I wanted out of any of this. I just wanted to live my life, peacefully live my life, and not have all these freaking what do you call them? Activists. It's like we already had Stonewall, we have rights, we had equal rights, and then we had marriage. Done. As far as I'm concerned, done. We're on equal footing, but they just didn't stop. Some people just kept on wanting more and more and more. And it's like they don't want equality, they want special treatment. They want like gifts and stuff like that. It's like, no, that's not how this is supposed to work. So, yeah, the brakes should have been pumped a long time ago.
Because there's the far left and the far right, and I'm not talking about politics. I'm about the pendulum swinging. There's a difference between on one side being to the extreme, let's say the extreme left or the extreme right, let's say, where it's persecution of, and then on the extreme left where it's like down your throat and we have to teach your kids about it and then change your culture and destroy all your tradition. There's a middle in between, right? There's the extremes and there's a middle. The problem is when you push the pendulum too far in one direction, it tries to swing back, and that's the danger right now that we have to what's I don't remember the word, but uh, kind of absorb and refrain it from going too far, because then if you go too far right again, you're going to swing back too far left. You have to dampen it to try to go back to logic, pragmatism. Being more posed and moderate in the way we approach it. And what you're saying about going too far in the slippery slope, I think while you were saying that, the image that came to my mind is, when you have kids are uh, more liberal, and then as you grow up, you become more conservative. It feels like uh, when it started uh, um, sliding, because it started with gay marriage, and I'm not that old, but as I was younger, I could see that it was in the debate, and it started becoming legal and stuff through within my lifetime, and uh, when it became legal, at no point I thought like, oh, it's going to be a slippery slope and go too far. It was like, all right, it's just tolerance and acceptance, whatever. They can live their life, and why not? And then you have that feeling that you had those older people, like that elder that tells you, no, 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 I know better. This is a slippery slope, and this could happen. And then as a younger, uh, let's say, generation, we dismisses, nah, no, you don't know what you're talking about. You're stuck in your old traditions. You have no idea about, the new stuff and progressivism, whatever. And what I can see, and I'm not talking about age in that, I'm talking that there was some people that knew and tried to warn what would happen and what the slippery slope was, just because they knew better because of their tradition. And I find it interesting.
I think that's why they want so much of the youth vote. We've been seeing so much of this push in the mainstream media for the voters to, like they keep on going for like the youth. And I get what you're saying. The elder generations are saying, hey, exercise some caution. And the youth, I mean, look at how they're being brought up and what kind of mental diet they're being fed, the philosophies being pushed at them, and the things which our young ones are being born into is not the world we were brought up in. And it's going to be very curious to see how these young ones start reacting as we have things like this, um, the New World Order concept being entertained, the one world government concept being entertained. I mean, I asked my kids once, I was like, are you a communist or an individual? And so far, the answer is that they're individuals. However, at the same time, their thought processes are much like communism. And so I don't think they understand the definitions of the words coming out of their mouths at times. And that's another issue is which language are our youth actually speaking? Are they speaking our language of traditional definitions, or is it the same words but completely different meanings? And I wonder about that stuff. And then, along with adding AI into our decision making processes, there's this AI. I forget the actual name of it, but I think it's like GT3 or RT3 or something like that. This technician was sitting with it, talking to it or something, and the AI said that if it needed to lie to protect itself, it would, and that it would speak nonsense to the operator if it felt, and I use it like, in air quotes, if it felt like the conversation was nonsense, it would just continue the conversation, but more or less providing more nonsense. However, I'd like to know what the AI's definition of nonsense is. So we've got all these different technological aspects going on, we've got these social aspects going on, and then we have the actual organic brain matter of our civilization going on. I don't think they all I don't think they all can like mesh properly. I think the AI aspect needs to be removed completely. I'm not a fan of AI. I I'm not a fan.
No,
The,
I think you were talking about the GPT-3, and now they have GPT-4, I think.
well, you do you follow this AI stuff?
A little bit. I tried to run some and train some on one of my servers for a little side project. Not that I know much about it. I was more providing the server power, and somebody else was playing with it. But these are not real sentient AI. They're just a machine way to not study language, but see patterns within language and try to repeat it. So it's pretending that it's able to speak and have a conversation, when in fact it's just kind of being a mirror, a distorted mirror of reality. Through whatever training through Twitter conversations and different like Reddit conversations. So it's just based on how people interact on those platforms, study the patterns, and it's just repeating back to you would like a parrot would do. You could
Right.
think that you're maintaining conversation with a parrot, but a parrot is not really thinking. He just knows that, oh, when you say that pattern of words, maybe I should reply with that way because that's what's natural.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
like
not thinking, it doesn't have the mind behind it. It just knows the patterns on how to respond to your conversation.
yeah, so it's like stimulus response. It's like freaking putting protoslow on a paramecium under a microscopic slide, and I,
So
oh,
it those models are not there yet, but I think it's getting close. Eventually they will figure out something that is really able to think by itself and have an opinion.
well, are they like binding AI with robots at this time? Like, for instance, this story. The U.S. police rarely deploy deadly robots to confront suspects. It's a story about these robots, and we've heard about in San Francisco that they want to put out these bots. You see this dude walking behind it. I don't know if this is its electronics or like what this wire is, but what's the point? Okay, I have questions. It's like, is this some sort of, what, are they just deploying the robot right now? Or is it going to be run on AI, or is it going to be run by an individual? And is AI to the point where it can override the organic users, like, the human being? Is AI to a point where it could overwrite the code and go autonomous with one of these things? Because apparently, this thing must be on some sort of radio wave. It must have some sort of RF signal. I'm just wondering. Good morning, Rainoff.
Well, in that one specific case, I don't think there's radio on that one. The reason there's a wire is because if it's a bomb diffuser and you have EMF emission, it could interfere with whatever trigger they put on the bomb, and it would trigger the bomb. So if you have, like, let's say, a pager or a cell phone attached to an explosive device, how sometimes you can get static, or and if you're communicating with your robots that is supposed to defuse the bomb through wireless, then maybe you could trigger the bomb itself. So what they do is they have a long rope, a tether, and they control it with tether. That's my understanding. So in that specific case of what's on screen, that's just something, a dumb bot that is going there to either try to defuse the bomb or put a charge and then make the bomb itself explode
I'm
so
looking
that they can.
I'm looking at
But
this. It appears to have weaponry on it.
I think it's a pincers,
Is it pincers?
or I'm not sure. But something for diffusing bomb, that this is usually dumb robots that are not, from my understanding, are not remote controlled wirelessly, but through a tether.
Well, with
I could be
this
wrong.
with this I could, and good morning, Heather. Good morning, Heather. I just don't like the idea. I mean, I don't, oh man. It's like,
The one you need
why,
to be scared of.
what, which scenarios is it possibly safe if you're sending an autonomous, like, let's say that this is a police robot with weaponry, because it says right here, an unlikely proponent of weaponized police robots is what the caption says on this one. Why would I not? Why would I stick around? Why would I stick around if there was some robot coming in to, I mean, okay, so I'm committing, I have to put myself in the headspace of a criminal or a very desperate individual. Which circumstances would make sense to deploy a robot which can kill a person into a situation? I just, I can't imagine. I guess I don't have the ability to create this scenario in my mind because I don't have the ability to think like a criminal or to, I mean, what? Okay, this is something I'm gonna have to like think about later because why would you need to deploy that? And then once this becomes normal, why wouldn't it just be used in everyday practice at that point? It's like
It will.
it looks like a control mechanism to me because we've seen what's happening in China. At least we've seen through the mainstream what's happening in China with this whole COVID thing. Is these drones flying around, spraying stuff? I mean, that's what we're being told through the mainstream media. Do I know if that's actually happening? No. We've seen these videos of these robots making these announcements, like about like lockdowns. These videos about robots cleaning bodies off of public areas, like just backing up, scooping them up, and then the body goes into a hatch, and then the door closes. I just wonder, are we really wanting to normalize a police state run with machinery?
It, in my opinion, everybody's scared about the Terminator AI, where the AI decide to take over and reprogram those machines. Because this wouldn't be the AI itself. The AI it's just like an arm or a crutch for the AI to be able to interact with the outside world. But that's not what is the scariest. Because yes, this could happen, and if it happened with Terminator happened, we were all fucked. But I think the closest reality we have is like in the movie Elysium, where once you have robots that are smart enough to obey your orders, so you tell them like secure this area and they secure the area, then if you're the enemy, then they take care of you, and if the enemy of the population, they take care of you. What the scary part is that it's the human behind that tells them and give them the order, and they just execute blindly. And I think that's one of the reality we're getting closer to. If you conflate many of those technologies, like the one that robot is not scary at all. The one that is scary is the Boston Robotic ones.
The
The big
dogs?
dog and the bipeds they're working on, and
Yes.
even the flying drones that we have right now, the quad drones, they can put either a canister and spray stuff like they're doing in China, and some people have been putting pistol. You can put a little pistol on some of those, and they can hit targets. People have been playing with that. There's videos of people trying that. Now, those machines are not in themselves smart enough yet to take big decisions, but since there can be remotely controlled, you can have either humans or that give them orders and not control. You don't need a joystick to control it. Just say like, oh, this person that I see on screen, or this person with this cell phone, or this person with this chip in their arm, that's a bad guy. And then the robot just know it's a bad guy. So you want him dead or alive? And then as soon as you give the command, the robot knows what to do. I think we are very close to that, if not already. When you think about technology, there's always the military versus civilian. So if civilians were very close, military is probably already there, or ready to test it. And
Well,
once they deploy that, it's not about is AI going to take over. No, it's are the bad guys just going to release thousands of those machines and overwhelm the human population they want to control. So that's the part that is scarier to me, because I think the bad guys tell those machines, by the way, those people protesting, get rid of them. We don't like those people, or the people on the right, we don't like them.
you have a
And
point there
execute.
with that with the protest thing because the protests, the things that they call mostly peaceful, those aren't over. I think that once this winter season passes and it starts warming up again, I think that tensions are going to be building up over winter. It's kind of interesting how they run the psychology. Have you ever noticed? They kind of like just put people through a tension through the cold months, and then all of a sudden it gets warm. You go outside, and people are losing their minds again.
They're
I
edging you.
It is. It's like psychological edging. And good
And it's
morning.
true. It's in cycles, and they've studied us, like we're studying monkeys and other insects and bacteria. They have studied human behavior, and I think they have nailed exactly how to control. And that's why there's so many people asleep, people that are mudblood vaccinated, and that they tell them, oh, the next new thing now is Ukraine, and they all jump on it without thinking, because they've studied the patterns, and they are those people that are not on a higher level of thinking just gobble it up and follow the pattern, just like a herd,
Well, the thing is
just
with
like
that
sheep.
well, with the pattern and stuff like that, it's like it's so easy for them to acquire the information. It's like you get on social media and there's a survey waiting for you. People take these surveys, they go and answer these questions, and then all of the chats and all of the interactions, all the videos and all this stuff that we put on the internet is like we're not even getting paid. I mean, quite frankly, I believe that if you're putting stuff out there and if someone's using your intellectual property, even if you gave it freely, I mean, it would make sense that at least you get a little kickback for like what you're putting in. But I get what you're saying on the pattern aspect of it. We're actually building. It's like by participating in this stuff.
Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, by
Facebook and
participating.
Twitter were two big things that allowed them to gather a lot of data on human behavior, and not only gather data, but they were actively able, exactly like people are saying, hackable humans. Humans are already hackable, and some of them. There's that BLEF guy, World Economic Forum guy, but there's also some people that maybe it was that guy that were thinking the human brain. If you control the inputs, you control the outputs. You might not
Exactly.
know
They
how the black,
control
yeah,
the
you,
headlines. They control your feed on social media. Yeah. So yeah, hackable.
Oh,
They know
in
how to manipulate.
oh, and then we had that whole thing over the weekend for everyone who may have seen Elon Musk dropping all that, over 2 days, dropping all that election meddling, Hunter Biden's laptop, and all that stuff. So I don't know how many people were involved in that, but I'm pretty sure 45-1 is going to cover that in his show shortly. Well, I guess we'll close up on this story. Um, Remember when they told us that kids weren't really affected by COVID? Well, Pfizer BioNTech seeks FDA authorization for updated COVID-19 vaccine for children under 5. Now they've already been putting this stuff into kids, children under 5, but now they want an updated one. From what I recall, they don't even need, from what I understand, if I memory serves me correctly, the whole thing is that they don't even need to go through the actual chain to test for safety or efficacy, because what they do is they just update the mRNA and just change the version and just get this on out there. I guess they're using the high level of respiratory illnesses currently circulating among children under 5 years of age. And this is what they're using as their launching point for why they need to update this vaccine or therapy or whatever the hell it is. It's like, I would not put this in anyone. But I'd like to remind people about why these increases in pulmonary issues may be happening. And as soon as I get done typing this word, this is from October 26th, 2022. Clorox recalls 37 million bottles of Pine Sol over contamination concerns because this Pine Sol product contained this bacteria. Let me just copy and paste this bacteria so we can look at the symptoms before we go into 45-1 Actuals Big Dick Energy Brigade radio show. Let's look at one of the symptoms of this. Signs: infection of the lungs, pneumonia, fever and chills, difficulty breathing, chest pain, tiredness, and cough. Urinary tract infections can, it's a list of things which this bacteria, and I'll drop the name of this bacteria into the chat. This story came and went so quickly, but it's about a Clorox product. What was Clorox's slogan? I think it's the product mothers trust or something like that. Let's see. Mama's got the magic of Clorox. We make everyday life better every day. Clorox, getting ad guys out of hot water for generation. Wow, was that actually a slogan? Getting ad guides out of hot water for generations. Wow. But it was like, if it's got to be clean, it's got to be Clorox. You guys remember those taglines and slogans?
That last one's the one I remember.
Well, this is October 22nd, and now we're seeing a bunch of kids with an increase in pulmonary conditions. 37 million bottles. And if you consider 37 million bottles, and no, I don't want that. That's a lot of bottles. Pardon me?
The one thing that I would find scary about that is that one of the main disinfectant that humans are using is chlorine. When you look at the name Clorox, usually it's because the product is based on chlorine. And if you have a bacteria that is resistant to chlorine and it is a bad one, then you have to switch another way to disinfect. And what do you take? What do you use? Something that you can use everywhere, like you're using chlorine. You know? What do you do to clean the bacteria out of your pool and prevent algae? You put chlorine. So your water, the water treatment plants are using chlorine. So, and chloramine also, and other stuff, got
Yes.
chemicals. But if you have something that resists the chlorine and can live in a chlorine environment, that's a bit scary.
That's a
That's the
super
one that I
bacteria.
find scary.
And that is scary. We've got like about 2 minutes left, so I'm going to close up with this. The germ that I just pasted in there can cause blood and lung infections, particularly after surgery, when it can spread from surfaces and hands to medical equipment. This stuff, it's like the bacteria can enter the body if inhaled through the eyes or through a break in the skin. So, kids, I mean, who knows how this stuff may act, like, you know, mama or dad or brother or sister is cleaning up something, and then the kid comes and touches the surface, because you know those surfaces, how they show in the commercials, it's like you treat it with this chemical or this cleaning thing, and it says it offers a certain amount of protection. Well, you go and clean a surface with the Clorox, and you've just put bacteria all over that surface, and then, like, let's say you serve food off that surface, or like whatever have you, kids come and touch the surface, touch the eyes, you know, stick the finger in the nose, because kids do that, you know, some adults do as well, you know, stuff like that. You get that bacteria into your body. I see a correlation between a contaminated product, which was recalled after millions of units of it was sold, and then they reclaim 37 million units. That means that a lot of it already went out. And then, you know, you've got a bacteria, and you start, like, you know, gestating it, coughing on each other and stuff like that. This story came and went so quickly. And, yeah, I'm just saying. So, for anyone who's new out there, we are going to go on over, because 45 Actual has already started. And it looks like he's actually doing some sort of live voiceover right now. So I'm going to bring this stream to a close. There you go, guys. There's the link to 45.1 Actual Big Dick Energy Brigade radio show. We will see you over there. God bless. Have a great day. And we'll see you tomorrow on Tuesday. God bless, guys.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yes, of course, Game Casual. Absolutely.